My name is Erica, and this happened when I was 17. I worked at a huge electronics store that always had insane Black Friday crowds. It was the kind of place where people camped outside all night just to be first in line for cheap TVs. I came into work around 3:30 a.m., exhausted and running on energy drinks. My job was to help set up displays near the front doors, so I had a clear view of everyone lined up outside. That's when I first noticed him. There was a man standing at the front of the line, completely alone. He wasn't bundled up for the cold. He wasn't on his phone. He wasn't talking to anyone. He just stood really still, like perfectly still, staring straight ahead. Not at the door, not at the signs, just forward. Everyone else in line was tired, moving around, complaining. But he didn't move, not even once. I pointed him out to my manager and said, "That guy's been standing like that for 20 minutes. She just brushed it off. It's Black Friday. People act weird when they're tired. Maybe she was right, but something about this guy made the back of my neck feel cold. When the doors finally opened at 5 a.m., the crowd pushed forward like they always do. People yelled, sprinted, grabbed carts. But the man didn't rush. He walked in calmly, but in this smooth, almost floating way, like he was gliding through the chaos without reacting to anything. And the weirdest part? He didn't shop. He didn't look at deals or TVs or displays. He walked through aisles slowly, watching people, not in a creepy way, more like he was observing everyone, studying them. When he reached my area, he stopped directly in front of me. He looked right at me with this blank, hollow expression. Then he asked quietly, "Do you know what time it is?" I told him. He stared for a moment, then said, "That's not right." Not angry, not confused, just certain. Then he turned and walked away. Something about that moment made my stomach twist. I tried to shake it off, but the feeling stuck with me. About 10 minutes later, my coworker came over and said, "Hey, that weird quiet guy? He's in the security room with the manager. Says he's from corporate." I froze. That didn't make sense. The man had just walked past me, and the security office was all the way in the back, past crowds so packed you could barely move. Still, I followed my coworker to the office, and there he was. The same man, sitting calmly in a rolling chair next to the manager, like he'd been there for hours. He didn't look at the monitors. He didn't talk. He just sat there, waiting. The manager said he was doing a corporate inspection, which was strange because corporate never showed up unannounced on the busiest day of the year. When the man finally looked at me, his head turned in this slow, smooth motion. His expression didn't change, still completely empty. I stepped back without meaning to. A security guard came in behind me and asked, "Do you know what time he came in? We're trying to track his route." I told him I saw the man enter right when the doors opened. The guard pulled up the entrance footage, and that's when everything got strange. At first, the camera showed people rushing in, pushing, grabbing carts, running. Then it showed the man. He walked through the doors, and in the next frame, literally the next second, he was gone. Not walking away, not turning a corner, just gone. No movement, no transition. He simply disappeared between one frame and the next. We checked other cameras, aisles, hallways, the backroom hall. Nothing. There was no footage of him walking toward the security office. No footage of him entering it. The only proof he existed was right in front of us, sitting calmly in the chair behind the monitors. When the guard turned around to ask him something, the man was suddenly gone. No one saw him stand up. No one saw him walk out. He just wasn't there anymore. The manager looked confused and asked if he'd stepped into the hallway, but the hallway camera had no one on it. Every door was closed. We never saw the man again that day, or any day after. When corporate actually came in weeks later for a routine check, they told us they never sent anyone to observe Black Friday. They had no idea who that man was. And honestly, neither do I. All I know is every Black Friday since then, I can't help but scan the crowd, just in case I see him again. My name is Jordan, and this happened when I was 15. Every year my family had this tradition. We'd go Black Friday shopping right after Thanksgiving dinner. My mom loved getting deals, my dad liked people watching, and my older sister, well, She liked mocking the chaos. That year, the mall opened at midnight. We pulled in around 11:30 p.m., and the parking lot was already overflowing with people. It was exactly like you'd expect. Groups camping out in folding chairs, people wrapped in blankets, kids asleep in car trunks with the doors open for warmth. Nothing unusual, at least not at first. My parents got in line at the main entrance. It was long, loud, and full of people arguing, laughing, and complaining. I got bored fast, so I wandered a little ways to the edge of the parking lot, just to get some space from the crowd. That's when I saw it. A second line, not at the entrance, not near any doors, but way across the lot near the unlit side of the building, along the concrete wall. It took me a moment to even realize what I was looking at, because nobody there was moving. It was a perfectly straight line of people, at least 20 of them, standing shoulder to shoulder, completely silent. Their clothes were dark, their heads were slightly bowed, their hands hung at their sides, and none of them were facing the mall. They were all facing toward the far end of the lot, like they were waiting for something that wasn't related to the store at all. I remember feeling this prickly sensation on the back of my neck, like I wasn't supposed to be looking at them. I thought maybe they were employees lined up for some meeting, but employees usually stand by the entrance, and they definitely don't stand silently in the dark like statues. I was staring when one of the mall security guards noticed me and walked over. "Hey kid, stay with your family. It gets crazy out here." I asked him, "What about that line over there?" He looked where I pointed, and for a moment his face changed. The confident, bored security guard expression slipped, and something like concern flickered in his eyes. "Don't go near them," he said, not angry, not scared, just firm. That made me even more curious. "Who are they?" he muttered. "They're not supposed to be here," and then spoke into his radio. We've got them again. South lot, same place as last year." Same place as last year? I kept watching as the guard started walking toward the silent line. His footsteps echoed across the empty part of the lot, and as he approached, the entire line of people turned their heads at the same exact time, not toward the guard, toward me. My stomach dropped. There was no sound, no expression, nothing dramatic, just this synchronized movement, smooth and unnatural, like one signal had passed through all of them at once. The guard spun around and yelled for me to get back to my parents. I didn't argue. I just speed-walked back to the main entrance, trying not to look over my shoulder. When I told my mom about it, she thought I was just trying to freak out my sister. Even my dad chuckled and said, "Probably just weirdos messing around." But the guard didn't think it was funny. A few minutes later, 2 more security guards arrived from the far side of the building. They jogged straight toward the silent line, talking into their radios. One of them was holding a flashlight. I watched them shine it across the group. For a second, the silhouettes were lit up. Dark coats, motionless bodies, faces shadowed, and then the light passed over them. The moment the beam swept back, the line was gone, not walking away, not scattered, just gone. No footsteps, no rustling clothes, no movement. The guards froze. One of them kept swinging the flashlight around in disbelief, checking behind trash bins, checking between cars, checking the space behind the concrete wall. Nothing. The guard I had talked to earlier came back to our side of the parking lot. He wasn't pretending it was normal anymore. He pulled my parents aside and whispered something to them. I couldn't hear the whole thing, but I caught pieces. "Shows up every year. Never see them leave. Just stay near the crowds." My parents nodded. They didn't even argue. When the mall finally opened, everyone rushed inside, and the normal Black Friday madness started. But even in all the chaos, I kept glancing toward the far windows, the dark corners of the building, the dim security corridors. I kept expecting to see that silent line again. Around 2:30 a.m., my sister and I were sitting on a bench near the food court while my mom waited to check out. My sister elbowed me and said, "Look, at the far end of the mall, right where a maintenance hallway met the main corridor. A single person was standing. Dark coat, hands at their sides, facing the opposite direction of the shoppers, perfectly still." I blinked, and a group of people walked in front of the hallway entrance. When they passed, the person was gone. The next year, my family didn't go to the mall on Black Friday. We didn't even talk about why. All I know is that every time I go to that side of town, I can't help scanning the lot. just to make sure no one's standing silently in the dark, waiting for something only they understand. My name is Maddie, and this happened 2 years ago when I was working at a huge outlet mall right outside my town. I was 19, juggling a part-time retail job while going to community college. Anyone who's ever worked in retail knows Black Friday is basically the Super Bowl of chaos, except instead of cheering crowds, it's angry customers, spilled coffee, and non-stop stress until your shift ends. But that year, the chaos wasn't the part that stuck with me. It was what happened after the chaos died down. Our store normally closed at 10 p.m., but for Black Friday, we stayed open until midnight. Even then, there were still stragglers wandering around with glazed-over expressions like zombies hunting for last-minute deals. Around 12:45 a.m., things finally slowed to a crawl. Only a handful of customers were left. I was straightening clothes near the back of the store when I noticed someone walking slowly between the racks. A woman. She was wearing a long blue coat that almost brushed the floor, the kind you'd expect someone to wear in freezing weather, not inside a warm store. Her head was slightly tilted downward, and her hands were tucked into the coat's pockets. At first glance, she looked like any other tired shopper, but there was something about the way she moved. She didn't walk with the distracted energy most customers have when they're looking for deals. She moved like she was searching for a person. Her eyes weren't wandering over clothing racks. They were scanning the space between them, almost like she expected someone to step out at any second. I called out to her with the usual retail greeting. "Hi there, do you need help finding anything tonight?" She stopped walking. Slowly, she turned her head toward me. No smile, no irritation, no expression at all. Just this weird, blank calm. She didn't say anything. She just nodded once, like she understood my question. "Okay, what are you looking for?" I asked. She lifted her arm and pointed, not at an outfit, not at a section of the store, but directly behind me. I turned around. There was nothing there, just a row of folded sweaters and a mannequin that desperately needed dusting. When I looked back, the woman in the blue coat had already stepped behind a rack and was walking deeper into the store. Something about the whole interaction left a tight feeling in my chest, but I tried to push it away. Retail makes you deal with plenty of odd customers. Around 1 a.m., almost everyone finally cleared out. The only people left were me, a coworker named Rena, and our closing manager, a guy named Kyle who mainly hid in the office doing inventory. Rena was counting accessories by the registers, and I was assigned to the fitting room area, which was my least favorite spot. The fitting rooms felt too quiet late at night, like sound didn't travel right. The long hallway of doors always gave me this weird sense that I wasn't alone, even when I knew I was. I brought my cart of clothes over and scanned the area. The fitting room hallway was empty. All 8 doors were open. The motion sensor light glowed steadily. No flickering, no activity. I began organizing returns when the store's overhead speaker crackled softly, the way it always did before it played closing announcements, but no announcement came, just the static crackle. Then the fitting room motion sensor beeped. That usually meant someone walked inside, except the hallway was still empty. No doors had moved. I stepped closer, expecting maybe another employee had walked by, but I didn't hear footsteps, and the sensor stayed lit. I walked up to the hallway and looked in. At the very end, near fitting room 8, there was someone standing, the woman in the blue coat. She was facing the last fitting room door, just standing still, her back toward me. Her coat nearly brushed the floor, and she wasn't moving. I froze. I didn't hear her come in. I didn't see her pass me. There were no footsteps, no sound at all, and there was no reason for her to be there. The store had been closed for almost 15 minutes. I swallowed and forced myself to speak. "Ma'am, the store's closed. We can help you check out if you have items." She didn't react. She didn't shift her weight or turn her head. She just stood there, facing the partially opened fitting room door, like she was waiting for something or someone inside it. I glanced back toward the register area, hoping Rena was still nearby. The register lights were on, but I didn't see her. When I turned back, the woman in blue was gone, not walking away, not stepping into a fitting room, just gone. I felt this strong urge not to go down the hall, so I stayed in the main area and called out, "Hello?" No answer. I checked the hallway again. Empty. All the doors were open except the last one, which was now slightly more ajar than before. That was enough for me. I grabbed the card and practically speed-walked back to the registers. Rena wasn't there. I didn't hear her in the stockroom either. Instead, I heard Kyle calling from the office. "Maddie, can you come here? I need you to check something." His voice sounded strangely calm, which weirdly made me more nervous. I walked back through the store to the office door. The moment I stepped inside, something felt wrong. The room was dim except for the blue glow of the monitors. Kyle was sitting in the main chair, staring at the screens. "Did you finish fitting rooms yet?" he asked. I shook my head. "No, because, Kyle, did you see a woman in a blue coat tonight?" His jaw tensed slightly. "Why? Did she talk to you?" I don't know. She kept showing up and disappearing, and she was just in the fitting rooms, but then she wasn't." Kyle turned the monitor toward me. The screen showed the fitting room hallway. Empty, no doors, moving, no people. "Rewind 30 seconds, I said. He did. The hallway stayed empty the entire time, but I was staring directly at the moment I knew I had seen her, and the screen showed nothing. "Maybe the camera glitched," I said. My voice sounded tight. Then Kyle slowly clicked through other feeds, the store floor, the racks, the cash wrap. Every time the camera panned near where I had seen the woman, the footage distorted with static, just for a second, before clearing again. I felt my skin crawl. "Why is it doing that?" Kyle didn't answer right away. He leaned back in his chair and let out a long breath. Then he said quietly, "You're not the first person who's seen her." A chill went down my spine. He continued, "Every Black Friday night, always around closing, always the fitting rooms. I've never caught her on camera, not once. It's like she knows exactly where they're pointed." I stared at him, waiting for him to continue. He didn't. "What does she want?" I asked. His eyes flicked back to the monitors. "Don't know," he said, "but she only ever stands near one place." He pulled up the fitting room camera again and pointed at the last door, fitting room 8. "That one?" I asked. He nodded. "That room was part of an old storage extension years ago," he said. "It's not even supposed to have a motion trigger, but every year, the sensor goes off around the same time." I didn't ask any more questions. Every instinct in me said this conversation was over. Kyle told both me and Rena we could leave early. We didn't argue. We practically ran out of the mall. The next day, when we reviewed the footage again, every time the woman would have appeared to me, the cameras glitched. Never a clear shot, never a silhouette, nothing, just static. That fitting room motion sensor still goes off around closing time, mostly on holidays, especially Black Friday. I'm not working retail anymore, but sometimes when I'm in the mall near closing, I swear I still see a flash of blue fabric slipping behind a corner or a glimpse of someone standing perfectly still between the racks. And I'm certain of one thing. Whatever she was looking for, I don't think she found it yet.